Okay, so you've decided to teach a foreign language in your homeschool, or maybe you're really thinking about it and you haven't decided because you don't know where to start. But for the purposes of this, so I can cover everything, I'm going to assume that you have no languages at all, so that it kind of speaks to everybody. Hi, welcome back. My name is Jill and I'm the homeschool mom to a 9-year-old girl in the 4th grade. And we homeschool because I want Morgan to learn a foreign language. To share a little bit about me and about Morgan and why we're learning a foreign language. The point is to allow Morgan to have the option to move throughout countries, to move throughout cultures, a little bit more prepared than if she didn't have a language. And thankfully she picked French because French covers, I think, over 80 different countries. And so many people speak French. It's sort of the common ground in a lot of places. I've been in Arabic countries where my Arabic is very bad and the other person doesn't speak English, but one thing that we do have in common is French. And so I speak my second language, this person speaks their second language, and we're able to communicate. And since I have that, I want that for my kid. But in order to get her there, personally, I need to have short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. Because if I don't have a direction, if I don't have a long line of sight to the target, for me, I kind of muddle and get distracted. In order to stay focused, I have chosen to move Morgan through her language program so that she's able to test officially by taking the DELF that is offered by the French Ministry of Education. And if you watch my previous video, it explains much better what that is. And it also goes through other different tests for Italian, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, German. That's a standardized and universally accepted certificate, which means that Morgan will have that throughout her life. So if she were to go through high school in the United States and then she took French or whatever language, and she was applying for a job that either required a foreign language or could give her a leg up into that job because she has a foreign language. And if her employer said, well, how good is your French? And she says, well, I had a B in high school. But another person comes along vying for that job and the employer says, how good's your French? And that person says that they have a DELF certificate for A2 or B1 or B2. They are a shoo-in because they have an official certificate that shows that they have listening, speaking, reading, and writing in that language that is acceptable to the Ministry of Education in that country. And so I think that if Morgan's going to learn a foreign language and she's going to use it to get around the world, because I want her to be able to be adventurous. Our motto for the Patterson Academy is the Patterson Academy for the Smart, Funny, and Adventurous. So that's our choice. Okay, so I'm going to refer to French, but you can just insert any foreign language. If you're learning Hebrew, if you're learning Spanish, if you're learning Chinese, whatever. Let's start with what to use. So 2 points that you want to pay attention to when you're choosing your curriculum. While everyone starts off at 0 as a beginner, not all beginner books are for beginners. So let me explain. A 3rd grader will likely start with high school French books. Why? Because most high schoolers in the United States who don't have any language at all start roughly at kind of like 3rd grade-ish books. If you go any younger than that and you have a reader, the majority of the books for younger grades, they encompass other things like how to make the letter C, and you're going to make your kid really bored. So if you have a 3rd grader and above, then you will want to start them out with high school equivalent books for beginners. Now, having said that, be really suspect, and I really would encourage you to just say no to all-inclusive curriculum, because the majority of those that I've found online don't let you do a flip through. If a company doesn't let you do a flip through of their book, be highly suspect. So this is what I call scammy foreign language curriculum. Not going to work. Why? Because the majority of their instruction, I find, is in English. They spend way too much time talking about grammar, way too much time explaining stuff in English about the language. When you have a child, especially a young child, there's nothing more boring than that. Let me be clear that when you teach a foreign language to children, you do not need to focus on grammar, Okay, so let me give you an example. When your child is learning English and they say, "Give me that, mama," or "Give me this, mama," that's probably not grammatically correct, wouldn't you agree? But as moms, when you have a 2-year-old say that, do you say, "Oh, that's nice, but this is how we say it. Will you please pass the salt, mother?" No, we don't correct their grammar when they're learning English. We should not correct their grammar when they're learning a foreign language. They will get it by repetition and assimilation. So if they say something incorrectly, and I know a lot of people will say, "But I don't want them to have a bad habit." Don't worry about breaking that bad habit. Concern yourself first with allowing the child to enjoy the language and allowing them to make those mistakes. This is really the time where you just want to go, "Oh my gosh, did you say that? That's awesome." And then what you can say or do the next day is repeat what they were trying to say with the correct language. So if Morgan was to say, "Merci beaucoup, mama," I'm not going to say, "Oh, you shouldn't have said the P on beaucoup." We don't say that. So that's why you don't want to focus on grammar right off the bat. So what to use? You want to start with beginner books, and you want the majority of the book not to be in English. You want it to be in the foreign language. So these are the best two that I chose. I have the Carson DeLosa French, and this is middle high school French. And I will do a flip through. I'll cut in and do a flip through of this also. This one is Brainy Books, Vocab Booster, Beginner French Workbook Level 1, and they're in the middle of creating Level 2. So in order to explain what I mean by the majority of the page needs to be in the foreign language, I'll stop here and I'll do an overhead view of those two books so that you understand what's going on. Here's what I mean when I say it's important to have the majority of the words on the page be the foreign language, because you still have the family, but the majority of the words here are for them to figure out. La famille, and it's there, it's family, because this is the vocab, so there is some translation, but it also shows le grand-père, and it shows an older man to infer the grandfather, and so you can walk through it with them, but it's not sister, it's not brother. So this is her vocab book. Let's see. Okay, and then here is some English, but then it's got je suis, it has to be on the side, and it's got the conjugation, and it's got new vocabulary here. And it pulls from all of the stuff the child's already learned, and the only part that's in English is the part that needs to be translated. The rest is in French and needs to be done by them. Here's an example of one that I wouldn't use. There is so much grammar, so much English, paragraph after paragraph of English. And this might be better suited for an adult or a much older child, like a teenager, where they're going to want to just zip through this. But a third grader, this is exhausting. One, they wouldn't want to read it themselves. And two, if you read it to them, it's just a waste of time. There's so many other ways to get knowledge down, and grammar is not what you start with. You do always have grammar, but it's in the form of repetition and acknowledging, oh, it's said that way. This is the way it's said. And this was not my favorite book. We don't use this at all. And then this is also one that we use that has as little English as possible. And this one is not filled out because I actually photocopy this and have Morgan fill it out over and over again. This is the negation I don't like. And so this repetition, I don't like peas. I don't like spinach. Well, that's sad. I don't want my kid to say I don't like broccoli. She loves broccoli. Anyway, this is good negation and good example of the majority is in the foreign language. Okay, so that's a little bit about workbooks. A lot of people make the decision to buy a dictionary, but at this point, your workbook is your dictionary. So I wouldn't bother to invest in one until you, one, have a really good idea that this is going to be your language, and two, you have enough of an understanding of books and what you're looking for to choose the right dictionary. Because honestly, that dictionary is going to be with you forever, or with your child forever, for as long as they learn the language, which is hopefully lifelong. But what you do want to do is get a really good verb book. there's a lot of really good verb books out there. And I've had this one before and I lost it in one of my many moves before we came to North Dakota. And so I just rebought the newer edition. This is 501 Barron's Educational Series, 501 French verbs. And I've actually, what I do is I go ahead and I tab all of the verbs that she knows so that she can flip through it quickly. When Morgan is learning French, I don't need to teach her dictionary skills. That's for another day. So when she needs to have a verb in front of her, I don't want her to spend any time flipping through looking for the verb. I want her to just get to the verb. And I make it easy for her, like acheter is to buy. And so what I do is I tab it, I highlight the verb, and then we're only doing, for this first year, we're only doing present tense. And so here are all the other tenses and uses of the verb to buy. And so I only highlight what she is learning or what she has learned or picked up, which is only the present tense. So she automatically, it's a massive time waster for her to go flipping through and flipping through and flipping through. And so I highlight exactly what she needs. But then she has it so that she can say, oh my gosh, Mom, look at all of the verbs that I know. And it's a visual way or a visual aid to really bolster her confidence. But another thing that I do to make it even easier for her is in her workbook, she has a little daily kind of a study book that she just keeps things that she likes in there. And what I did was I made, and I keep it in there permanently so she has it, I made les verbes en présent, all the verbs in present tense that she knows. There's a front and a back to it. And so what I have done is in alphabetical order, written the verbs and the conjugations of everything on the front and the back so she can just quickly grab it. So if she's doing sentence building one day and she can't remember how to conjugate the verb to eat, she can just look straight down, flip the page, where's manger? Manger is to eat, je mange, I eat, done. And this keeps the child their concentration focused specifically on learning the language, not study skills, not dictionary skills. Simply, I push everything that I possibly can out of her way to help her focus in on the language. And those other things she'll pick them up as she goes. One day she's just gonna look stuff up on her own. Okay, so we have workbooks covered and we have a verb book instead of a dictionary. So now the third thing is flashcards. I have found personally that it works really well to separate out the verbs from the vocab. So this is her verb book, and each verb is here. Let's see, her first one was aimer because she learned how to say, I love you, Mom, first. So that was her first sentence. So there's aimer, to love. And then on the back, there's the definition and the present tense conjugation of it. So when we do flashcards, when we do our fun flashcard day, I hold this up and she says, aimer, to love. J'aime, tu aimes, il aime, elle aime, nous aimons, vous aimez, ils aiment, elles aiment. And if she doesn't know it, it's on the back. So she can study these on her own, and she can also use them if she's looking for a verb. She's got now 3 different places to look for a verb. In her verb flashcard, in her verb cheat sheet, and where'd it go? It's hard to miss because it's really big. In her verb book. There's actually a 4th place. She keeps a notebook. Why do I think it's important to have this kind of repetition? One is never far away. So it's likely that one of these things is within her reaching distance, so she doesn't have to go get the other one. And also, the repetition helps where she visualizes where she saw it, or she can use each one as a different means of studying, just as a fresh look at things, just so that she doesn't get bored with one thing or another. So we have a lot of that kind of repetition going around. So number 4 is readers. So the readers do a couple of things. It helps with the speaking portion and it helps with the reading portion. And also if you continue to repeat, then they can learn sentence structure and sentence building. And so we had begun with the very first language together, first set of French. But the cool thing about this one is if you don't already speak the language, and they have several languages, they even do Chinese for these. But if you don't have the language, then you can log onto their website and the book is read to you. So as you sit and have it read to you, you can flip the pages. And they're very simple. But if you don't know how to pronounce voici, you won't know how to pronounce voici. And so it's a really good idea to have somebody read to you. YouTube is great too. I actually think this book is on YouTube. Somebody already did a flip through read aloud for you. And then the translations are all on the back. So you know what each page, voici une maison is the first page, and here is a house, or this is a house. Repetition is key here. And we mix it up enough because this is, let's see, cool. This is cool numbers. So each number, and it's color coded to help. Each number is, and if you read the colors before, then you'll know that this is orange and this is bleu. And so you can do the color book first, crazy for colors, food couleur. And then once they get their colors, then they go on to numbers. And the number is colored. So you can say, well, what color is this? C'est quelle couleur? What color is this? And then they will tell you. So I have a bunch of other books, but I'm not going to show you that because it's now you understand that's why we use them. So if you want to see more, I can do a more detailed flip through, and you can go back to my first video and I show you a few of the other books that we use. Okay, now for the online part. I have a list here. We have all but one. Let's see, there's Duolingo, Babbel, Rosetta Stone, French with Alexa, Berlitz, and there's a sixth one, Memrise, Memrise. It's an app, and it's new to me, so I have not vetted that one yet, but I think if anything, it might be useful for me. So when you're choosing your online program, and an online program is important, and I'll explain why. When you're choosing your online program, think of two things. One is, does it work for me? And two, does it work for my child? You may find that one will work better for you than for your kid. Except I would say that if you're not sure, start with Duo, because there's a really cool family program and you can use it on laptops, you can use it on your cell phone and iPad and all that stuff. You can do that with Rosetta Stone too. There's an app for that. But I find that visually the photos and the writing is really small. And so if you're using other, like Berlitz, Rosetta Stone, and what's the other one? Babbel. They're too small for me visually, even with my reading glasses, to use them properly. Duo really works well on a cell phone. And so I have Morgan, she's got my old cell phone, so she doesn't have connectivity unless she's at home or like on Wi-Fi or whatever, so that she can use that app. And I can log in and see her, and we can do challenges together. How many can we do per week, or how many points can we get? And so that's really fun. You can send each other high fives. And if your child is not the best writer, you can say, I'm not able to write right now, and so it'll exclude for 15 minutes the writing portion, and it'll change the writing to speaking instead, or listening and answering with multiple choice, or tapping on the word and the word populates the sentence up above. Some of you are not into online learning. I get it. I'm not a fan either. There's exceptions to every rule, and this is one. Why? Because your child hears somebody other than you speaking the language. Your child hears a native speaker speaking the language if you're not a native speaker. And also, those courses are set up to do incremental immersion where there is no English on the page at all. And that is really important. The younger you do this, the better, because things might confuse you, and kids will go, oh yeah, this is easy. Oh, I can do this. Well, how did you know that was that? Well, it just made sense. They can't explain why their brain assimilated that this person says, I work from home. They can't explain why that became so easy for them. It's because their minds are still so elastic to just accept with sound, with a picture, and with some words that they just have slowly built, they get it. The earlier you can start this, the better. Now, I would also encourage you to look up on YouTube some cartoons. I want to be really clear that your child doesn't have to understand any of them. When I lived in France, I was 10. Back then, there were only 3 channels. Obviously, none of them were in English. They had a 3-hour show, I think on Saturday nights, that was patched in from BBC. All the expats could watch, and so it was from something like 7 to 10 at night when all the French people were actually out to dinner, drinking wine, enjoying themselves. The English speakers were plugged into the TV for the only 3 hours that they could get in English. But other than that, all of the TV was in French, and that really helped. And so the first 6 months, I had no idea what was going on in the shows, except for, the obvious is you could pick stuff up because it's visual. But why I encourage you to do this and to show cartoons and to repeat the cartoons, the same ones over and over, or let's watch this one again, or let's watch this one again, it's because they're getting used to hearing a foreign language. They're getting used to hearing someone other than themselves, someone other than their people. And that goes a long, long way. That's why immersion is so effective, because you just get it. You just have to get it, because if you don't, you can't communicate with anyone. And so by implementing this and bringing those cartoons into your household and letting them sit and watch for just a few minutes. It doesn't have to be long. You could do 10 quick minutes together while they're having a snack or something. This is a marathon. It's longer than a marathon. It's an ultra. And there's no grade here. You do not have to be assigning grades. You don't have to do 14 out of 15 right. In fact, just leave that to the other subjects for now, especially if you're not in high school. If you are learning a foreign language and you're younger, forget about the grades. They're not important. And before you know it, your child will be writing, reading, and speaking the foreign language. It's freakish. I remember the first time, it was, I think, just a week into French, and I tucked my daughter in bed at night, and I gave her a kiss, and I said goodnight, and I walked out, and I heard her whisper, "Maman, je t'aime, bonne nuit." Oh my goodness. It was amazing. So they will do it in their own time. And the more you're enthusiastic about it with them, and the more you speak with them or show comfort in being silly and trying the language, the quicker you're going to see it from them. I would start with focusing each day on listening, speaking, reading, writing. It's really important to keep those as balanced as possible. So even if you have like 5 minutes of each for 20 minutes of the language, at least you're doing all 4 for 20 minutes instead of just reading for 20. Now, if they really enjoy reading, you can extend that, but don't allow that extension into one pillar to outshadow the others, because like a chair, you're going to tip it. It's going to be unbalanced if you never do listening and only reading and writing. If you never do speaking, then your child could be what is called language mute, where they might know the language, they can hear it and understand it, but they can't communicate, they can't speak it, they can't come up with it on their own. Coming up with a language on your own is very difficult, which is why speaking and writing can be really troublesome. And reading and listening is more passive because somebody else has put it down on the page, someone else is saying it. So it's more the passive way of learning, and it's a little easier for some. So find out what your child is really good at and nurture it, while also finding ways to implement the other 2, the other 3, the other 1 that they struggle with. Find a way to make it really fun. And then you can go as fast or as slow as you want. You can even choose to do a spiral in that way. So we often do spiral. I come back around frequently because that's what flashcards are. But we will redo older pages that she's done if she's really bogged down and she's got a hard verb to learn, or this has been a tough week for her in any category and she's just kind of bummed out. Then that's the day that I will bring back previous French that I know she knows. And it's just, oh, I got this. I know this. I can just do this. She whips it off really fast. And that's her French. It is okay to not learn a new thing every day. And just gauge if your child is bored or if they need that repetition. It's going to be a day-to-day sort of a thing. So then you're going to have the workbook and then read to them. So you can use these readers do listening. So this is Le CP de Sami. This is Sami in kindergarten. And you can sit together, change the venue of where you are, go outside, go lay on the couch, but sit together, and the child can passively listen and look at the book. Just like we teach them in English when they're babies, when they're 2 years old and we're rocking them in a chair, we're reading them a book, and we don't expect them to understand everything we're saying. And we don't expect them to read what we're saying, but they get really into it because the story, what you're saying, the comfort of it, and the photo, the image, they're learning. So there's your workbook for reading, for writing. There is your Duolingo for all of them. Duo does listening, reading, writing, and speaking. There's your reader book. There are your flashcards. So just pick and choose every day. Oh, we haven't done this in a couple of days, so I need to implement this. And really, you won't go wrong if you always focus on listening, speaking, reading, writing. So I hope this has helped you in some way. If there is anything that you want me to expand on, whatever, just let me know in the comments below and tell me how else I might be able to help you in your homeschool and in your journey of foreign languages. See you later, Mom.